So it's the business end now of the Galway Senior and Intermediate Championships. We're at the semi-final stage for a lot of clubs. It's going to be about getting to that final, and we're in for some thrillers, it's safe to say, this weekend. And of course, we have the Senior B final as well. So the winner of Ahascragh and Mullagh will find themselves in Senior Hurling. And as well, to avoid Senior B, we have Kilkenny and Portum in the relegation playoff, as well as a junior final as well between Scahan and Montpellier and Loughrea. The winner of that will find themselves in intermediate hurling. So a huge amount at stake this weekend across all the championships. Just before we get into Joe, going to yourself first, you were with Kinvara this year. How do you look now at the intermediate semi-finals this weekend?
Yeah, it was. I spent a few months with Kinvara up there. Colin Callanan was manager, so got involved with him last February. So unfortunately bowed out at the quarter final against Aircourt. These are two evenly contested semi-finals. They really are. Kinvara would have played three of the teams, lost to Tina and lost to Aircourt the last round, and beat Ballindine in the group stages. The only team we didn't play was Cylon. But two even games. The Tina Aircourt game, I find that hard to call. You know, one day I'm saying Tina, the next day I'm saying Aircourt. Aircourt looked very impressive against Kinvara, but a lot of that was down to Kinvara's just no show on the day. Just didn't perform or turn up. Now they were very slick, well drilled, some really quality hurlers. You know, whilst Tina on the other side are the same, with a bit more physicality about them. So conditions would play a part. Loughrea pitch would play a part. How that one will go, I actually wouldn't call it. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a draw. You know, I really wouldn't. As for Ballinderry, they've been motoring along nicely. We had them in the first game. Their first game against Spiddal was cancelled in the group, so we had them in first. We beat them 2 points in the group, but they've bounced back pretty well. A good win against Spiddal. Drew with Tina, which was a big result for them, and finished third in the group, but still played Abbey in the prelims, beat them quite well. You know, and had a good win again the last day against Rathoon. So, but I have seen Cylon playing as well. I've seen them playing Turlock in the group stages, Turlock was beat it, and I was very impressed with them. Very physical, but have added a bit of hurling up front as well. So, I actually would fancy Cylon to get through that one. Actually, going on what I've seen from the two teams.
And we will get into previewing them games, but just on Kinvara this year, we were only talking in the lead up to the quarter final with Craig Lally and Kevin Brady on the preview. It's a very young team you had there at the moment.
Yeah, extremely young. I think when I was talking to Colin at the end of last year, I didn't realise how young they were going to be, but I think there was 11 of them under 20. 4 of those would be doing their leaving cert. So they are a team for the future. They're probably, you know, they're doing all the right things. They're, you know, like any young team, they're gymming quite well. You know, their enthusiasm. You know, there's the under 20 games are a help because they get more hurling. They have a little bit of football going on as well, so the guys need to be minded and stuff like that. But they are, and they're a fabulous club. They're development up there. The 2 pitches. They're in the process of putting in a floodlit Astro, and they're just trying to do all the right things. And they have a nice blend coming. They are young and, you know, but you have Conor Whelan there as well, and there's Shane Byrne and Niall Birmingham. There's a few older guys as well. Not many, but a few mingled in there as well. But they'll need those guys to stay and to bring them through. But when you consider you have 10 under 20s on your starting team, you know, it's a bright future if they can keep them together. And I certainly think the lads have the growth of the game, so I think they will stay together. And hopefully in a couple of years we'll see them back up in Senior B at least.
Aonghus, I know you were with Mellows in the background this year. There's obviously a bit of controversy there with management and everything at the start of the year, but is it hard to look at the Senior B final this weekend when Mellows aren't there now?
I know. I mean, we have to hold our hands up and say we're not deserving of a place there. I mean, without a shadow of a doubt, the 2 best teams in Senior B this year are there, you know. So certainly there's no pangs of regret or anything like that. You know, that didn't deserve it on the day, as Jeffrey had said to you last week. So to me, the 2 best teams were there, and it's going to be a great game, I think.
Where do you feel you are now as a club, Mellows, Aonghus?
Well, obviously in transition. I mean, we had 2 chances, you know, to get up to Senior A, and haven't done so. So I mean, the results speak for themselves. The players have to rebuild. There's a couple of younger guys coming in, and you know, if we are where we are, it's up to ourselves as a club to dig our way out and try and get back up to Senior A. I mean, we showed we can do it, but you know, that's nearly 6 years ago now at this stage. So I think as a club we have a lot of rebuilding to do, and we can't say we're undeserving of where we are. We've our performances reflect our position or our standings in the tables, and that's simply it. We as a club have to improve.
Lads, you both experienced semi-finals as a manager and as player. This weekend, if we look at the senior semi-finals first, obviously Thomas's and Sarsfields and Loughrea and Turlock, it's a double header in Pearse Stadium on Sunday. It's going to be streamed, but I take it a lot of people listening to this are going to want to get into it because these are going to be two crackers. But Joe, 2020, obviously you got Turlock to the county final. As a manager, what's a semi-final week like now?
Oh, this week is probably you're looking at probably tonight if you're training, you're looking at the opposition. You're putting that to bed, and then you're focusing on yourself. No doubt there's probably a few niggles because you're playing every 2 weeks like it was back then. So you have a few niggles to deal with. You've done your analysis on the opposition, who'll mark who, but you're looking forward to it. You've made the top four. I know back in 2020, and even when Mellows won it and last time out as well, there was a lot more teams in Senior A, so it was a little bit harder to navigate. But these are why the lads train. That they want. It's a big day. It's a big day in Galway hurling. I know in Athenry you'd have a packed house. You'd have maybe 10,000. The stadium Sunday you'd still be hoping there'd be 6,000 or 7,000 in there at least. If the day is good. I think it is dry. But players will be looking forward to it. It's a lot of hard work. I know for Turlock they were back early in the year. And I'm sure it's the same for every team, whether it's in the gym or on the pitch. They've been probably at this since January and even before Christmas, building, doing their own work. And so now they're here for the last four, and that's where you want to be to have a crack at getting to a county final. And you'll do everything in your power, injury wise and preparation wise, to be ready for Sunday.
Aonghus, as a player, was a semi-final, was it something you relished?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge opportunity. We were lucky enough in most semi-finals. It's just about getting over the line. As Joe had said, you're hoping you're bringing a bit of momentum in from your quarter-final, which was only 2 weeks ago. And if you have lads free from injury, lads would be psyched for this. I mean, dry day in Pearse Stadium, double header, big enough crowd. Sure, you have no excuse really. It's something to really look forward to, and all you're hoping for is you can show up, perform, and get over the line. That's all you're worried about. It's not worried about what you score or what you concede. It's simply, are you ahead at the end of the game really, and get to back to a county final, or get into a county final for some of the clubs here. I mean, I suppose most of them have been in county finals in the last 10 years, so they know what's involved in winning a semi-final anyway.
As a player, Aonghus, can the week drag on a bit here?
Oh no, I mean it's see, the evenings are closing up now, so unless you have floodlights and it's bad evening, you don't really get that much time on the pitch really. I mean, you're trying to rush out after work and maybe get to the pitch for 6 to have a bit of light before the light goes, and then you'll probably maybe keep going till 7, and then might be meetings or video analysis after. So it goes fairly quick really. I mean, you only have the 2 weeks, so it's not like it's a big gap from the last game. So the time goes fairly quick, I find anyway.
Joe, as a manager, you're obviously, when the draw comes out, obviously for a lot of the management teams, they would have had matchups and everything in the back of their head. But is this something you kind of keep away from the players until the week of the game?
Yeah, of course. You're probably the Tuesday night after the quarterfinal, you're back on the pitch. You're probably seeing how everyone is. You're excited to be there. Thursday night you ramp it up a bit. Maybe the weekend then you start talking to guys about who, individually you might make calls, who you could be picking up, who could be playing where, who could be on you, stuff like that. You want to make players aware of it, that the Daves, I've been in the dressing room and telling them just before they go out on the pitch, and I'm sure Angus would agree on that. That's well gone. You know, you want to have guys are so meticulous in their preparation now. You know, when you look at how the gym, their conditioning, they want to be prepped for whoever they're marking as well. You know, and they will. These guys know each other. Like Ings has said it. All the teams in the semi-finals have all been in county finals in the last 10 years. So these guys have been there before, and they'll want to prepare in the best way possible. And management have to buy into that and give them the information they need so they can perform. On Sunday.
So on Sunday, to get into the games now, first you have Turlock and Loughrea at 1:45 in Pearse Stadium, then it's followed by Sarsfields and Thomas's 3:30. I want to bring both of you in here before we get in and look at some of the matchups and performing different bits and pieces. Do either of you think that Thomas's or Loughrea won't be in the county final this year?
No.
And why, Angus?
They're both, if you look at the scoring throughout the year, both Thomas's and Loughrea are the highest scoring team on average per game. Loughrea marginally more than St. Thomas's, and both have the meanest defences. Again, Loughrea have conceded marginally less than Thomas's on average per game. So, to me, they're the two best teams in the competition. Now, to be fair, they're the best four teams left, but I think personally, unless I think Turlock have more of a chance of beating Loughrea than Sarsfields do with Thomas, has been honest with you. If I was to call it, because I just feel, looking at their performances all year, I know they've only played 4 or 5 games each, but to me, all year, Thomas's and Loughrea have been consistently performing and scoring extensively and not conceding much, and demolishing a couple of teams, which, other than Sarsfield's last game, maybe weren't doing as much, and Turlock same way. I just think they are the two best teams, and barring something unusual happening, I feel that they'll come out victorious. But I still think Turlock could beat Loughrea, but I don't see Sarsfields having it over Thomas's.
And Joe?
Yeah, it's because Angus is spot on there. It's hard to disagree. It's probably a long way off. People would have spoken about Loughrea and Thomas's doing it again this year. Yeah, and you're looking at the form books and you look at how Sarsfields and Turlock have arrived here. Sarsfields stuttered in the group a small bit. Got over Ardrahan. Then had a kicked on then again, against Clonmerdale, had a good win, and blew more away in the second half. The one thing I will say about Sarsfields, and it's as a club, it's the Coonies just seem to be starting motor now, and when the Coonies start moving, they bring everything with them and everyone with them. And it's interesting to watch even Joseph on the pitch. He's talking a lot more, he's driving guys on. I watched them against Castlegar, and that day you couldn't say that they'd win a county final, but they were a long way off it. But they seemed to have sorted a few things out. That day they had no one at number 11 really that was their go-to man with a ball. Joseph was hitting ball into Kevin from probably too deep. He was hitting from just outside his full back line. Now he seems to be going up the field a lot more. And picking these passes. They have a centre forward now. Alex is playing centre forward out of Kinnair. He seems to be motoring quite well. But you flip that around then, and you play Thomas's, who will, geniuses at figuring things out on the pitch. All the good teams are able to do that, and they are able to do that. And okay, they don't have David Burke this year. He's one of the main guys to figure these things out, but he's on the line, so he's as close as he can be. He could be tagged for all we know. We don't know. I'm sure he's not far away at all. But it is. But the one I do give Sarsfields a bit of a hope because of the Coonies and the way the three guys are Kevin, John is beginning to move as well, and obviously Joseph. But it's a big one for them. Thomas's are, you'd imagine, you can picture Thomas's. They got out of the group. They probably knuckled down for 2 weeks, trained really hard before the Captagal game, got some conditioning in, and ready for the quarterfinal, semi-final, and a final in their eyes. The other one, Turlough Latray, again, Latray had been motoring so well, from a distance, and a lot of those group games and big scores were put up without their best forward from last year, Mark McManus, who's only back. I think he came on in maybe one of the group games and played the last day against Clarenbridge, and probably still not at the heights he was last year. Do I give Turlough a chance? Yeah. That's more than just the heart speaking. I think Turlough's backs are, as if they play as a unit, are as good defensively as Latray. It's probably the Achilles heel, and a lot of people talk about it, is can Turlough score enough from play to win the game? And that's the big question, and I can't answer that. We'll know on Sunday, but it is, of course, it's a worry because, I think if you go through the team and look at our scores from play, like Sean O'Hanlon's been our main man, probably averaging 4 or 5 points a game from wing forward. Our half forward, our full forward line probably haven't contributed enough for play. So can they get that right? Hopefully, but it's a big ask. But look, I do give them a chance. It's more or less the same team that was there in 2020. A few new guys brought in. Darragh Walsh is in goal now. He came in during the year. Fine goalkeeper, and Mark was a fine goalkeeper too. Splitting hairs there for who's in goal. Mark Fahey, but there's a Killian Williams in there, county under 20 this year. So there's 2 or 3 new guys in, but it's relatively, the same group. They've been there before, and it's up to them now as well to try and pull a performance, because they probably haven't given a complete performance this year. I watched them against Thomas's, and that was a big test for them. And Thomas's won it by 5. Turlough coming back to a point at one stage, but Thomas's could have won it by 8. So a big performance needed if they want to win it. But right now, sitting here and being honest, it is hard to see past Thomas's and Latray meeting again.
Yeah, like I feel Turlough, they need to keep this a tight game. Like, I mean, Turlough are scoring average 22 points a game, whereas Latray are scoring 30 a game. And as Joe said there, Turlough's backs are quite a solid unit in general. But I suppose they only get so many cracks at this. And if it's the same team since 2020,
yeah,
you know what I mean? You look at Cabatagal a few years ago, they had a couple of chances to get there, and now where are they? You know what I mean? So the same group of players doesn't stay together year on year. So I feel that maybe, not to say the time is now, but there isn't that much left really in this group of players. I feel Dahi, Ronan's full back. They're not going to stay playing forever, and they're not going to stay playing at the level they're playing forever. So they really, I think they really need to put in a solid defensive performance. Make this a battle, a tight. If they open this up and try to play hurling with Latray, to have an open game, Latray will win hands down because of their pace, the way they use the ball, they carry the ball, stick passing in around the middle, carrying it with speed. But if you can close it down and tighten it up, if you look at last year, that's why Thomas bet them in the county final, because they closed it up, they dragged them down, they tightened up everything. If Turlough leave this as an open game, there's only one winner, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're spot on, Angus. That is key, and I was looking at conditions there yesterday and today, and it is promised dry, which, a dry, crisp day will probably allow the ball to fly a bit more, and Latray want that, and they have pace everywhere from their full back line to their full forward line, and Turlough really, as Angus said, have to close that down. Turlough would need Dahi Burke on the front foot. Joseph Mooney is going to cause problems at 11, so, is he going to, dictate that Dahi's does more defending than he does attacking? That's a key area. Jamie Ryan, obviously. I would imagine
who's picking him up? Darragh Whelan.
I would imagine. In my own head, it could be Darragh Whelan. Darragh's played midfield. He's tigerish. He's a tough guy. He plays football as well with Claregalway, who got knocked out last weekend. So, my worry with him is he's probably on the go for 6-7 weeks now between football and hurling, So, but he's a guy that rises to that task. But it's not an easy task. You could keep Jamie Ryan quiet, but you still land 2 or 3 massively important points. And then, as you said, Mark McManus, I would imagine Ronan Burke-Ronser pick him up. Dahi and Joseph Mooney. They need the 2 Shacklesseys, Darren, and they're key guys as well. They guys can score. So it's a big task for Turlough, and a lot of people I've been talking to would say, well, the Latray backs won't have it as tough, but it depends on the style Turlough go with. If they're going to go a long ball, are they going to play through the lines? That's the key as well. It may be a case of dumping a lot of ball if they're under pressure going long and getting guys in on the breaks, but it does Turlough just need to keep it as tight as they can for as long as they can, and stay in the game, and hope that everything goes their way and the guys step up and perform, because some of them just haven't been at the top end of the game yet this year, but it's in them. But you just need to see it now.
Just on Turlough here, Joe, because obviously you've worked with a huge amount of these players. Do you expect Matthew Terpy to get the start this weekend?
Yeah, I would imagine he would. Yeah, I'd imagine he could start. Probably named corner forward, maybe coming off the pitch, or maybe coming to wing forward and putting someone else inside. He's come on in the last 2 games, have been impressive. He had a bad hamstring injury for the most championships, so back to full fitness and mad to go. Who lose out, I don't know, but I'd imagine they'll try and start their strongest team. And they have a bit of an impact off the bench then as well. But you need it, as do Loughrea. Like Oisin Coyle only came on in the semi-final, a fabulous hurler. So to have him in reserve, I don't know whether he'd start or not, but both teams have backup on the line. But I would expect to see Matthew in from the start. Yeah.
Aonghus, you kind of talked about Turlough as you see this as like now's the time for them to deliver this weekend. But what would you like to see from Turlough to cause Loughrea problems defensively? Because as Joe referenced, there's people talking there that Loughrea might have it too easy defensively, and that's going to be a narrative that creeps in because there's always this Turlough's issues up front that people will come back to.
I think to bring pace to their half-forward line, really. That again, going back to the famous county final last year, how did Thomases get themselves back into the game? Number one, they delivered long ball all the way into the forward line. And then when they had it around the middle, they ran it. They ran straight down the middle. You look at the goals they got last year. So, I mean, Turlough really have 2 options. It's either going long, direct from all the way into the full forward line and get on the breaks, etc. There's some good corner forwards, etc. there. Or else half forward line pace and running at them. You know what I mean? Sean O'Hanlon, Danny Loftus, these guys get on their bike running at Loughrea. They kind of seem to have adopted a bit of the Thomases attitude, Loughrea, that if in doubt, they'll pull you down. There'll be no goals conceded. So I think Turlough to really use their pace around the half forward line midfield and to go at them. And if they're held up, then it's just dumped in long.
Yeah, I think Turlough will need goals, Aonghus. I think they could need 3 goals to win this. How they get them or how they manufacture them will be key as well. But I agree that they'll have to move the ball fast from their half forward and go at pace and go in waves. Like it was. I go back to 2020 and the goal that we got, I think before half time, it was Dottie just bombing forward, taking chances and be organised in when they go, that if it does break down, that you've covered the back. So there's a lot of stuff to get right, but you're hoping on the day it will. But Loughrea, they'll know what they're about as well. They've like Tommy Kelly out there, they'll have their homework done, serious management. They'll be ready for whatever Turlough throw at them. But it'll be interesting, and goals, I think. You could see Loughrea hitting 24 points and maybe throwing in a goal or whatever, but Turlough will need, in my book, maybe definitely 2, if not 3 goals, and you go through, and I'm sure Aonghus has it there, the score, we probably have been goal shy, bar the last day against Castlegar.
Aonghus, did you see anything from Loughrea against Clarenbridge that Turlough can kind of cling on to for this weekend?
When the game was opened up, I thought Loughrea, took them on and got their scores quite easy. But Clarenbridge tightened it up. They dropped a man out, and then began to run at them from distance. So, like I said, you have to keep the game tight the way this Loughrea team plays. They're possession-based players. The cornerback gets the puck out. He doesn't hit it long. He's carrying, he's popping, he's going again. He's trying to pick out a midfielder. So, it has to be a full court squeeze and press to really keep this tight and not let them to build their play. You want to be getting turnovers in around the middle and then popping scores and trying to disrupt them and put them off their game, that they're going to start hitting long ball, etc., which isn't Loughrea's game per se, really.
So for just to get into Loughrea and then get predictions for this one, but what's impressed you most this year so far, Joe, about Loughrea?
Just their pace of the way they do things, how at the speed of how they're hurling, their pace on the pitch, their skill set. Now I've seen that last year, but they've added to again, and there's an air of confidence. Sometimes people can say that's a bit of cockiness, but there's an air of confidence. There's obviously a mission to get back to where they were last year. They all seem to be on the same page. And their scoring average is say it's so high. And they'll need that the next day. But it's just that they've built on last year. I think mentally that they seem stronger. Even Clarebridge brought them back to a point the last day in the second half. And the only response they could give and they gave was to plough ahead again. I know Evan got a goal at the end again to bring it back a bit closer, but they were in control coming down the stretch. So there's a focus there to get back. Um, they've so much pace. They attack in waves. When they do attack, there's a man on the shoulder. Their point taken from long range is exceptional. They create the space inside with Mark McManus. That's it's really good work. It's all positive play. But they defend very well as well. And I think I said when they fear there's a goal coming, they'll be ruthless enough to stop it and to pull you down and give away the free. And that's key as well. How to play the game. They've definitely learned and grown from that as well. And I think we've seen that in the group stages and in the knockouts as well.
Thing is, a lot of their talk when it comes to Loughrea will be about how well Jamie Ryan's playing this year, and he's been exceptional. Probably one of the stand-up performers across the Galway Club Hurling Championships. But the last day against Clarebridge, Paul Hubban and Johnny Cohen as that spine, they're really just giving a kind of steadiness in front of Garage Loughnane this year.
But the lads are playing senior hurling for 15 years of the 10, 12, 15 years. You know what I mean? They're probably the two first names on the team sheet, I would say, after Jamie Ryan. So these are very, very experienced players, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but ruthless players. You know what I mean? They will do what it takes to win. Both of them. They're both winners. And very, very physical players as well on the field. No, fair, but just they won't be letting anybody away easy anyway. That's for sure. So they're right strong, really down the middle. You name all the players off there. Johnny Cones, Joe Mooney's. These guys are well capable of holding their own against, and a lot of inter-county experience as well. I mean, Paul Houghton was on county panels, and obviously Johnny Cohen played for Galway. So to me, it's hopefully keeping the ball away from them lads that they're need to be doing to try and get the goals that they need to get over the line. I mean, Loughrea conceded 216 the last day, so I mean, there's no reason why Turlough couldn't better that. I feel it's going to be the same kind of day in the stadium, and it's down the flanks that maybe Turlough will get most of their joy rather than trying to get down on top of them two lads.
Do we expect Conor Walsh to maintain his role on the edge of the square for Turlough this weekend?
I think he could drop into corner forward if Matthew Tarpley starts. Again, Conor has been excellent from the frees, and he's building his general play is building. They will need 2 or 3 points. I think, as I said earlier on, Sean O'Hanlon's been that probably averaging 4 or 5 points a game. They're going to need someone else to step up with 1-1 or 1-2. Sean O'Hanlon needs to chip in with 2 or 3. He'll get 1 or 2 from 6. They need to bring their scoring average from play up. Maybe to 110. 111 if they can, and then land your 10 frees. That brings you to 121. It means Loughrea have to outscore you then, and that's what it comes down to. It's going to come down to the 2 sets of forwards, I think, because as we've mentioned, both sets of defenders, are pretty strong. Turlough probably hadn't played as well as a unit this year as I've seen them before, but it doesn't mean they're not capable of getting together. But yeah, getting back, I think Conor can play anywhere in the forwards. He's a good hand. Personally, I like to see him at 11. I think he brings an awful lot into the game at 11, as in, he's an option for ball out of defence. He links players well together. if a midfielder's coming or a wing forward off the shoulder, he's so capable of giving a pass, and he can take the scores, So personally, I like to see him 11, but he's capable of playing inside. I know can take a goal, can take a score, when it's on. So yeah, hopefully he'll have a big performance at Turlock, because he's a good guy, and he's as I said, he's worked hard again this year to get back to where he was, and he's hitting the frees very well. So just chip in with a couple from play, it'd be super, and it would help Turlock massively.
There's almost similarities when you look at Loughrea, and even if you see the role Aaron Gillan plays with Limerick, it's quite similar to what McManus is going to do this weekend. Aonghus, like, he will be left inside by himself at stages.
Yeah, I mean they play, very good quality of ball inside to him. In general, trying to play the ball to his advantage in that, and he's a great finisher, as he showed at times. But again, saw what happened in the county final last year, the second period. Turlock need to take that as a blueprint, I think, to try and get a victory here, in my opinion. Having this as an open game with lots of 30-40 yards in front of your full back line ain't going to cut it, I don't think.
And what have the Loughrea most added since last year for you, Aonghus?
Strange thing, I think their mentality, as Joe said there, like obviously the speed of their hurling has come on very well. Their conditioning was very good last year, in fairness, so they only had a small bit to add in that regard. But I think their mentality, Turlock, or not Turlock, Clanbridge got it back to a point, as Joe said. They pushed on. They didn't take their foot off the accelerator against many teams this year at all. They pushed on. They were ruthless in terms of killing off teams, and it's to me, that's the edge of their game that they maybe would say they lost out the final last year, and I think they've improved that. Being honest with you, their hurling, their conditioning is top class, and it was last year, but that was the one area maybe that they see as where they have made incremental improvements, I would say.
Do you think the county final will be referenced this week for Loughrea, Joe?
I don't think so. I would imagine their management would have dealt with that at the start of the year, and probably it's a focus to get back there. The fear maybe would be that they wouldn't have their eye totally on Turlock, because Turlock, as we mentioned, probably haven't set the world alight, and they probably come through. They beat Portumna, drew with Gort, Thomas has beat them, bet Moycullen, bet Castlegar. So, people question, well, maybe what have they beaten? But I'd imagine the Loughrea management won't be taking their eyes off Turlock, but there would be a small fear, of course, that they're thinking of last year's county final. But I would imagine the management that they have and modern day, that they would have sat down in January and dealt with that and set out their targets for the year. And like, they won the league again, I think, this year. They flew out of the group. They are where they are now, and they've been building all the time. Of course, there's bad games in every team. They're probably they haven't had one in a while. Like, even the two county finals last year, bar there was one or two mistakes in the drawing game that maybe could have won it for them. They haven't had bad games, but it's possible that things mightn't go their way and Turlock will frustrate them and stay in the game. And if your mind isn't fully on the semi-final and what you're in right now, that can be dangerous. But again, that comes back to management to have them tuned in. Tommy Kelly, Shane, Gavin, those guys have been around. They'll know the story, and they'll have them focused, no doubt, on the semi-final in hand, and probably not even thinking about the county final for now.
Do you expect Dushin Coyle to come in this weekend?
I don't know. The fact that he hasn't a lot done, again, it's probably a hard one for him to call. Is the team better with him? Yeah, definitely, if he's at full tilt, but they probably would have seen an impact off the bench the last time when he came in, when they were under a little bit of pressure. When they brought him in, they were probably just 2 up, and then they kicked on and went 6 or 7 up again. So maybe they might hold him in reserve just in case that they do hit a bad patch and Turlock have a purple patch in the second half, and then they bring him in maybe to shore things up a bit. But a super guy to have to come in, if he doesn't start.
I think it's the key battle here. Tiernan Killeen versus Sean Aonghus you'd be expecting.
Yeah, it's certainly one of the major battles. I wouldn't see it as the overall key battle in the game. I don't think there is really any key battle. It's not like Loughrea are very reliant, maybe possibly on Jamie Ryan, but every player on that team contributes a couple of scores, and if you shut down one, invariably somebody else would pop up. So Tiernan has been playing very well. Sean Aonghus, got a good run with Galway, etc., etc. So he should be pushing on now. He should be really saying, "I'm going to take this game and dominate it here around the middle." We can use this as a platform to go after one of their big players and say, this is the statement we're making here today, lads. But there's lots of battles, really, Paul. It's not just down to that one, key matchup. I think there's 4 or 5 of them really across the whole pitch.
I think as we just touched on Turlough's matchups defensively, but for Loughrea defensively, do you think there's any certain defenders that they're going to be putting on some of these Turlough forwards, or will they just kind of line out as there?
It's hard to know. I don't know is the honest answer. I mean, the only player they've kind of really been moving a bit is Johnny Cohn, and marginally, if somebody's causing a bit of trouble, they'll shift him across usually. But in general, they play their game, they set out their team. So, I don't think, that's no disrespect to Turlough, maybe Sean O'Hanlon, they look at closing them down. But the other lads haven't been shown enough to merit special attention. I think they'll go out with their 6 backs and say, "Look, lads, you're all good enough. Mark whoever's there in front of you."
I think that's a Loughrea thing as well, is that they'll always back themselves, won't they? They're a confident bunch, but you're probably right that there hasn't been too many, incidents in games or games that Turlough, their 6 forwards have clicked and have had anyone worried. Yeah, they've done quite well, and Sean O'Hanlon is the one we've been mentioning. So I'd imagine they'll probably say we'll close him down, and everyone else can look after their own. If we've problems, then we'll move around. But it's and again, I think Loughrea can deal with long ball. If Paul Hooper's edge of the square, he's well capable of dealing with that. They can deal with the short ball through the lines. They can push up. They have pace to push up and play it from in front. So Turk will have to be smart and play to their strengths and figure the game out as they go along. But I certainly, bar maybe Sean O'Hanlon, I think Loughrea would line out their defence, as they have done. They'll take their positions and welcome whoever comes in on them.
Is it Cayman Killeen on Sean O'Hanlon, would you say?
That's who I would be putting on him if I was involved. I think just shut him down. He as I said, he mightn't be in the game for a while, but he still comes off the pitch with 4 or 5 points. So it's key that that they will see. I'm sure they've looked at the Turlough scoring stats and they've said, yeah, this man can shoot can shoot from 60, 70 yards. So I'd imagine they will put someone that will be able to shut him down as best they can.
Is it Loughrea for both of you lads?
I do give Turlough a chance. They'll have to be better than they've been all year. But Aonghus did reference it. How many more times are Turlough going to get these opportunities? And they have to take it this time. Are they ready for it? I'm hoping they are. Are Loughrea the better team on paper? Yes, they are. They've had better results, better performances. But on the day it's 15 against 15, and whoever comes off the line, I give Turlough a chance, but Loughrea on form probably will take it. But I wouldn't rule Turlough out at all.
I think it's the last say in it.
Yeah, as I said, if the game is open and a free-flowing game, there's only one winner in my eyes. If Turlough can keep this a tight game, play to their strengths, run at them, try and get into the Loughrea heads. It's something that probably not many of these players have that much semi-final experience other than last year. I think from previous previous crop of players that were getting to county finals. I'd say, there's only one or two lads left. So Turlock certainly have a chance. They they're there on merit. They've beaten everybody that's put in front of them. But just looking at all the form, as Joe has said, and I just think there's something different about this Loughrea team to previous teams, to be honest with you. And I'd be very surprised if they don't get over the line.
So that's the first game in Pearse Stadium on Sunday. It's followed by the county champion St. Thomas's taking on Sarsfield's, or repeat of last year's semi-final. Joe, there's two contrasting styles here. You have Thomas's who are chasing this 6 in a row. You feel with Sarsfield's, there's a lot of young talent in this team. And are they going to be able to open up Thomas's? Or if they don't open up Thomas's, are they going to be bullied? And that's the two big questions this weekend.
These, and we don't know the answer. That's the beauty of it. Like I referenced, I seen Sarsfield's live against Castlegar, and I was disappointed with them that evening. How they played and the way they went about their business. And then I didn't get in to see the game, but I watched it against Doranmore, and they looked a different team. In the space of a few weeks. So confidence is key, but again, the big difference I noticed that day was Joseph Cooney and the way he was, driving guys on, and Kevin obviously was motoring well. I think the big part of this is if Thomas is shut down, their key players, if Joseph is on the back foot instead of driving forward and Kevin is held in sight, then the younger guys that we talk about in Sarsfields that are really good players, then the responsibility is on their shoulders, and it's, are they ready to take it on? Because Thomas's are, they are what they are. They're phenomenal. They're exceptional. In every facet of the game. Their skill set. Their pace, their power. Their teamwork. It's exceptional. And they'll be relishing this battle. And I know Sarsfields are as well after last year. But again, it comes down to, for me, if Thomas is closed down, the Sarsfields key men, which is Joseph and Kevin and maybe Alex Kinnear. Will the rest of the younger guys step up and take it on? And we don't know that, and probably the Sarsfields management don't know that. It's what's going to unfold on Sunday, really.
And Angus?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Thomas's defence, right? So Cappy scored 423 against Gort, and they went out following week and only scored 12 points against Thomas. And Thomas's have the second lowest scores conceded this year. Like, you look at the key players for Sarsfields, there's a matchup there all day long, like from Thomas's side, like Fintan Burke, Shane Cooney, Conor Cooney, Dara Burke. That's straight down the middle there where fair enough, he mightn't get the better of, but none of them lads are going to get cleaned out and extensive goals and points scored against them. Like, it hasn't happened in the last 5 years in Galway hurling. It's not going to happen now. I don't think. You know what I mean? These lads are still at the right age. They're all under 30 or just marginally over it. And the question marks, with Sarsfield's younger guys, they have to step up. They're going to have to step up. They're going to have to carry the mantle more, because definitely Thomas will pin down or attempt to pin down the main players from Sarsfields. They'll have looked at who was doing the scoring. They have been scoring 324, 327. Sarsfields are racking up fairly hefty scores now. But Thomas's are a different animal, like, than what they've been playing. You know what I mean? Clymer Daly and or more, no disrespect to them, but Thomas are a completely different animal that they're coming up against here. And to me, it's going to take a significant scoring burst of goals from Sarsfields to get over the line here.
Lads, Kevin Cooney's been unmarkable, but for Sarsfields to win this weekend, he has to be unmarkable again.
He does, and the problem is you've Fenton and edge of the square. That's who he's facing, and he'll obviously have dealt with him before, but also probably have marked him in numerous times in county training as well. So and Finton seems a smart guy. So Kevin is going to have the game of games, and he's well capable. But you know, Finton is some operator, you know, as Aonghus has said, these guys, you know, they mightn't win their battles, but they certainly won't lose them either. So, you know, if they come out all even, you know, well then Saracens are on the back foot, you know. It's and the guys they have around them, like, you know, like Shane Cooney in front of him, in front of Finton, you know, he's a smart guy, you know, you obviously James Regan will drop back, you know, you have, you know, so many more that will just help out, you know, and crowd and you know, it's the physicality they bring as well. Like we spoke about Saracens younger guys, but the physicality that Thomas's will bring to them when they're on the ball, the pressure they'll put them under, it'll just wear them down, you know, that's a huge part, you know, these hits and the pressure. Thomas's are relentless, you know. But you know, getting back to Kevin, it's a huge game for him. He's had a good year, even with Galway. He was, you know, he was popping up with his scores. He was, you know, he was contributing every day, and he's done this. He's carried the form in for Saracens, you know. But you know, Pearse Stadium might suit him if it's 1v1, but I don't think Thomas has allowed that happen. You know, they're too good, they're too smart to allow a 1v1 inside. It might happen once or twice, but maybe not enough to allow Saracens to go win the game.
With that, Conor Cooney's obviously been the standout hurler in the last 5 or 6 years for Thomas's. Is Joe Cooney Aonghus the man you put following him? But then it's, if Conor goes out, and we all know Conor likes to go deep to get the ball at stages during a game, do you just put Joe on him and he follows him everywhere? But then there's obviously the question there, that's leaving a hole at 6. Do you put someone like Niall Quinn in then at 6?
Yeah, these are the permutations you need to consider. You know, you certainly, I think, need to dedicate somebody anyway. Whether that is Joe or not, I don't know. I think, as Joe Hession has said, that you know, Saracens are playing their best hurling this year when Joe has been going forward and delivering ball. And if he's dictated to mark Conor Cooney, I'd see Conor Cooney going in full forward. You know what I mean? Or even in corner forward, like, just to take him away from that attacking threat. So I don't think Saracens can afford. I think they need Joe to be able to play his own game and not be following some fella all around the pitch worrying about him. I think they need
Darren Marcy out of cornerback then.
There's other guys there that Saracens have as well, you know, to cover. But certainly, I don't think that if I was with them, I'd be saying to Joe, you know, play your own game, go forward, get scores, deliver a good ball into the lads, rather than having to you know, tag a player and follow him around the pitch. Really, been honest. Darren Marcy, you know, can be used, whoever's causing trouble inside. Whether that's, you know, Victor goes in there or Oisin Flannery or whatever, you know, them guys need to be tied down. Darren is your man there. You know, I think Kevin Hines is holding solid in the full back line. They'll keep him there, but Darren will maybe, you know, pick up the roving guy that Thomas has come up with.
With this, Joe, in fairness to Sarsfields, as we've mentioned, they're coming in with huge confidence into this one. What can they do anything different now this weekend that maybe we haven't seen, that some teams just fall when it comes to Thomas's of being bullied?
Oh, yeah, it's such a hard one. No one has the answer. No one in the last 5 years has had the answer. You know, I know Turlock would have bet them heavily in the group last year, and you know, this year in the group v Turlock, they had the bit between their teeth. There was no way they were going to lose the game. So they have huge pride in what they do, and they take every game so seriously. But you know, how can you get at them? How can Saracens improve to get at them? Like, Saracens would have been massively disappointed with their performance last year. You know, they definitely doing things differently this year. Probably the lads are a year older now and a year wiser and stronger and all that type of stuff. But it's again, it'll come down to, they will need to hit the goals. No more than Turlock in the first game, they will need to hit the goals. It's can they create enough 1v1s inside? You know, and that takes serious amount of work to create that, but also serious amount of intelligence out the field to spot when it's happening. You know, and that's where Joseph is key. And getting back to that, I don't see Joseph. You know, I'd imagine he wouldn't pick up, you know, Conor Cooney, because if he, you know, he's the man that delivers the ball inside. It's his passing, it's his range of passing. that's able to get Kevin moving, So, but they'll need to be clinical in every way. Like they'll need to hit all their scores. Their frees need to be impeccable. They need to just to be on the front foot from the word go. Thomases will play anyway. They'll dog it out with you. They'll go physical. Saracens will have to play to their tempo, their style of play. Very skillful. Use the ball well. Maybe spread it wide, pull Thomas's left and right. And land your scores. Then when you have the opportunity, you've got to take them. You can't waste them because you could be 2 up and they'll have you pinned back. They just have to be so clinical in everything they do, in all facets of the game, from puck outs to scoring their frees, their conversion rate for play. It all has to be above what they've done so far this year, even though they've hit big scores. But you're coming up against guys that are going to put you under so much more pressure. So that's what they have to deliver: a performance, nearly perfection to get over the line on Sunday. And they have improved as the year has gone on, but this is their biggest test now. But can they be like that? Of course they can. They're Saracens, but the test is huge on Sunday against Thomas's.
Before we get into Thomas's, just for both of you, can they win this weekend?
Saracens?
Yeah.
I go back to my first comments about the Coonies and then what they're doing and the way they're driving it. I believe they can from that, but they need everything to go over. Everything they shoot needs to land. They need everyone on the pitch to play to their best of their ability. And that is quite hard. Angus will tell you that. County finals, semi-finals, that's quite hard. There'll always be someone that, will be below par or whatnot, but they need everyone to be at the top of their game. And if they do, then they'll be there or thereabouts. But that's a huge ask against St. Thomas's. Huge ask.
Is it for you, like Joe there, Angus, Daresfields need to have an exceptional day and Thomas's need to have an off day?
Looking at the form to date in the championship, I think so. Being honest with you, I mean, Thomas's have regenerated as well. This isn't the same team on the go for the last 5 years. I mean, they've changed their strength and conditioning coach. They have brought in a couple of new players as well in the middle, etc. A couple of lads that were on the team a couple of years ago are now not even on the panel, etc. So, to me, they have regenerated and improved and brought in a lot of younger lads, in fairness to them. So they're just a well-oiled machine. Like, I mean, in the last 5 years in Galway, they have figured out the answer all the time.
And what is that they figured out the answer?
Combination of things. And look, they're just a good team. They are the best 15 hurlers in Galway, right, as a collective unit, and their drive as a team in terms of the willingness to just go and do whatever it takes to get over the line. No matter, as Joe said, they will. You want to dog it out. If you want to open up as an open game of hurling, if you want to play a sweeper, they've seen everything now that teams can throw at them, and are able to adjust and adapt. And as Joe said there, Dave Burke is on the line. If he sees something happening with the opposition, that's going to be communicated in straight away, and a switch or change or an adjustment will be made. Barring a complete meltdown and a scoring splurge from Sarsfields, I don't see. I personally don't see Sarsfields taking it.
Yo, the danger here is, if you look at Thomas's performance against Captagal, Kenneth Burke and David Burke, you could tell they were getting aggravated at stages, because first stages in that Captagal game, Thomas's probably felt themselves their performance levels weren't at where they expect, and that's a danger of Thomas's coming into a semi-final knowing they have to give a performance here.
Oh, 100%. Like, how many years have we seen Thomas has been vulnerable in the quarterfinal stage? Like, Tommy Larkins were within whiskers of beating him a couple of years ago. They had put in a huge effort in the Turlough game. You could witness that they were hurt from Turrick beating them well the year before in the group. Like they bet Turrick 5 points, could have beaten them 8 or 10. They were exceptional at even at times. Their movement, their slickness. I would imagine, and Angus, you could know that I would imagine they trained rather hard once they had Turrick beaten, because they're training for a county final again, and that's not being cocky. That's just what they've done for 5 years. They got a block of training in. I think you would have seen evidence of that against Cappy, where they were a little bit sluggish. But I think you'll see a vast improvement. And again, it'll come down to the players will know themselves they didn't perform for a full 60 minutes, and they know they'll have to. Especially I would imagine the first 20 minutes they'll lay down a marker against Saracens that we're here, we're staying here. We're going to win this, and that's what they're about when they come to semi-finals and finals. But it's their game, like them players. Like I'm sure James Regan, Conor Cooney, Dara Burke, those guys were probably in training Tuesday night. They were the guys that were driving it. That we weren't, for 60 minutes we didn't perform as we should have. The levels have to come up. And from what you hear, that's how it works. Bernard is back with them again. Bernard Burke, I think he'd stepped away. The guys got onto him. He's back training. This is what goes on in good teams and teams that have success, that they drive each other
on that point, Joe. I think it's been really underrated how key Bernard Burke was to that team.
Oh, 100%. Bernard had a huge role. He was ever reliable, ever dependable. Did a lot of the dirty work, broke up a lot of play. Angus would have seen that firsthand against fellows, and that he was a guy that you wouldn't be, and I mean that in a nice way, Angus. You know what I mean? Those are the guys that you probably didn't plan for a whole lot leading up to a game. Not that you ignored them, but you were more interested in David and Connor and Shane and those guys. But Bernard is every team needs someone like that that'll roll up the sleeves, break up play and stuff like that. And I'm not surprised that they went and asked him to come back again. He has some hard training done, because what they've done for such a small club is incredible, and Angus is right, they keep adding to the group, and you look down through what they're winning at underage and it's not huge, but they're still able to pick a player or two every so often that they blend into the group, that comes in and trains the way they're supposed to train and steps up and fills a position that needs to be filled, and that's huge credit to them. And that, as well as everything else, that's what Saracens have to get over on Sunday, is that camaraderie and togetherness. That's absolutely huge. It's 10 years going on now, and I know they're without David, but they won the county final last year without Shane Cooney, James Regan and Sherry. So like that's a 5th-year team last year gone, so or 30 teams. So like that's these guys aren't, they're no mugs. They know how to do things, and I'm interested to see what David be talking on Sunday, because I'd imagine he's getting ever closer,
Yeah, I feel like that the fact that they're not going too well when they get outside of Galway is actually a disadvantage to all the teams in Galway next year, because it's given these guys, the management and everybody, a stick to beat these guys with, and stick to beat themselves with, as well. Like, I mean, we won Galway again, lads, but we didn't make it over the line in a semi-final. And that's happened on a few years on occasion. So I believe that's, an extra motivation for these guys to say, yes, we won X amount in a row, but we didn't win an All-Ireland club, which is very unusual for teams from Galway. So personally, I think, I don't know the ins and outs of Thomas's, but I could see them referencing that, we need to deliver, lads. And the way we do that is we get out of Galway first, whereas if they won an All-Ireland club, should they be celebrating for a few weeks and maybe mightn't be training as hard the following year,
Yeah, might give the rest of us a chance, saying, I think you could be right, yeah. Every other club a chance.
Just on the forward line the last day against Heptagal, Evan Duggan, Conor Cooney, Oisin Flannery, Aina Burke, Dara Burke, Victor Manzo. That forward line, apart from Duggan, it's just impossible to plan for Angus, isn't it? Because they'll just constantly change.
Yeah, I mean, you just mentioned him there, and we haven't mentioned him at all. Like, I mean, Aina has been playing incredible this year. I mean, we played them in the league this year, and he was unmarkable. Like, he's a phenomenal scorer. Like, and always seems to pop up in space. He's very efficient, like with his shot selection and that. just like you have to mark him. Oisin Flannery's been going well. Conor Cooney, Dara, like they have threats on all sides. So it's up to every Sarsfield man now to step up. You know what I mean? They can't be relying on pinning down one player and hoping that the rest of them will not perform, because it just doesn't happen like that with them. Somebody else steps up if there's an issue somewhere.
Yeah, I think if you look at it as well, that they won the under-20B, I think, didn't it? The B Pierces, and they were also in the Junior A semi-final. They lost to Salt or Skehanna
after extra
so
time.
like there was probably guys that were playing on that Junior A that possibly mightn't be far away from the senior team either. So they probably have strengthened their pan a little bit over the last couple of weeks as well. So that's scary for every other club out there as well. But getting back to Sunday, I suppose David, we didn't really touch on David's injury and the loss he's been to them, but I think having him on the line is probably the next best thing. Angus, I don't know what you think, but his intelligence and his reading of the game and his doggedness is, it's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the superlatives run out now at this stage talking about David Burke.
Remarkable, really, to have a man like that on the line. You both went with Thomas's there. To beat Sarsfields. I think it's what everyone's expecting for it to be, a Thomas's Loughrea final, but there could be a shock along the way. Just to finish on the senior hurling, lads, obviously have the senior relegation final this weekend, Kilkenny, Portumna. Joe, it's a game no one wants to be involved in at the start of the year. Kilkenny came so close in that semi-final against Crowell, looked like they had them beaten the first day. Portumna have actually had quite a while since their semi-final defeat as well. So it's a tough one to call, obviously, because this game, like these relegation games, just take on a life of their own.
They're impossible to call. They take on a life of their own, and you're looking at key players. Obviously, Joe Canning still with Portumna. He'd be a huge asset to them. I haven't seen Kilkenny. Obviously, I've seen Portumna against Turlockmore, and they were very disappointed in that, even obviously without Ronan O'Mara this year, and Jack Canning didn't play that night either. So they would have it all to do, but look, a team with Joe Canning is probably still, what's he going to hit for you? Could he hit, a goal in 2 or 3 from play and maybe nail all the frees? You're thereabouts, but it's a game that's so hard to call because of its relegation, and anything can happen, and someone has to lose it, obviously, someone has to go down, but I would be, Portumna probably have been on the downward curve, the last couple of years, and because of that, maybe they might just be the ones to lose out, and it's hard to stop the rot at times, but no one's saying that they were still got to the knockouts last year and stuff like that, but the worry would be obviously if Joe steps away in the next year or so that they probably haven't got enough coming behind it to keep it up. But you just don't know with them. Kilkenny, on the other hand, bounced up from intermediate, got another bounce up to senior A. Some good young hurlers coming through there as well. Like, so it's a hard one to call. It's for me maybe Portumna, that they mightn't just have enough for this one. Kilkenairn's youth and enthusiasm might just see them through,
How important is it, Angus, do you feel, for these clubs to survive another year in senior hurling and not get that drop down to senior B?
Obviously, it's a hammer blow to both sets of teams. Kilkenny would have felt they were on an upward curve. The last year or so, Portumna, were down, and then probably last year probably had one of their best years in a while, where they reached the knockout stages and probably were unlucky. Kilbake is a kind of a strange sort of venue. I doubt they would have played many competitive games there, really, being honest with you. And it's on Saturday, so it'd be kind of it's a 50-50 game. Like I'd imagine Portumna would have circled the wagons a bit now with a couple of weeks and got everybody back and fit, and would have been able to watch Kilkenny against Cahill. I seen the second half of that game. It was nip and tuck. They played some good hurling at times, Kilkenny. A lot of good young lads. But it's a toss of a coin. You know, I'd say Joe will scrape them over the line. He'll score some free from 120 yards to pull them out of the fire. You know, it's very. It's an awful position to be in. All you want is the result. You don't care how you get there. And maybe the Portumna lads are a small bit more battle hardened, and that's why I would go for them.
Yeah, like there's really going to be nothing between those two teams. Portumna Kilcarn senior relegation final on Saturday at 3:30 in Kilbacon. Probably one of the main events on Saturday is the Senior B final at 4 o'clock between Ahascragh and Mullagh. Angus, there would have been a couple of Mullagh stalwarts that you would have played with, and when you see what they're doing now in Senior B hurling, like what are you thinking when you're seeing they're still producing these performances?
Wondering what I did wrong. Like I've seen all Mullagh's games this year, and I've seen all Ahascragh's games this year in the flesh, and you know, this is a game that there will be nothing in it. There absolutely will be nothing in it. When they played each other earlier on in the year, yes, Mullagh won, but Ahascragh could have very easily won that game. They were riding it up until the end, and they had a man sent off with about 10 or 15 minutes to go, and that maybe gave Mullagh the boost. They got a relatively softish goal, I'd say Ahascragh would admit. Mullagh got one, came out of nothing really, and that got them over the line. I don't see. I'm calling a draw here because I just don't see how Ahascragh have been very, very impressive all year. The most impressive team I've seen, being honest with you, in Senior B. Their style of play, you know, they were able to in-game change their setup, change the way they were delivering the ball. You know, they were running at one stage, the next stage they were delivering it in long. They're very, very well worked and intelligent team, and they managed to stick with everybody. They figured it out. Like Mellows were on top of them, should have won the game, and no, Ahascragh figured it out. They found a way in the last 10 minutes to change their style of play and get themselves back into the game and got the scores to draw the game. You know, as I said, they beat Athenry fairly well. They should have beaten Athenry by a lot more, being honest with you. And then could have very, very easily beaten Mullagh. They took care of Baha, and I was at their game against Legion Killadima, and again, they figured it out. When the game was open, Legion Killadima were running away with it. But they changed their setup, you know, closed it down, ran the ball a lot more, and got over the line, and deservedly so got over the line against Legion. And probably should have won by more, really, being honest with you. So Mullagh, on the other hand, are very, very well conditioned. I have to say, you know, they got a new strength conditioning manager last November, David Hardyman, and they're really, really in good shape. And that's probably why, as you spoke about, the two elder statesmen, Kevin Briscoe and Conor Caldervin are performing as well as they are, because they have obviously put the work in off the field. This team, they're very, very fit. You know, they're finishing all their games really very strong, being honest with you. Led by the two Glennons, obviously, but and Dolphin inside has been a huge fill up for them inside. He's causing every team awful trouble. You know, they play a very direct style, Mullagh. There's no much running the ball. There's nothing playing through the lines. It's get it and it's gone inside, and it's delivered well inside. You know, they play very good quality ball inside to their corner forwards. And being honest with you, Paul, I can't see who's going to come out in front of this. It's going to be a titanic battle.
A name that's, when you think of Senior B hurling, Joe, Conor Dolphin, like for Mullagh this year, he's probably been one of the players of the championships. Like even the last day in the semi-final, he was maybe kind of held for Mellows for a bit, but he was still able to step up or freeze at vital times.
Still scored 1-4 from play, Paul.
Get that in, Angus. I haven't seen much of the Senior B this year, just bits and pieces before games I would have been at, but I have heard, and I would have seen Conor at underage with Galway through the academies, and huge potential, you know, great speed, you know. But he stepped up. He's delivering. He's obviously putting in the work. He's a real prospect. He's a guy that could, you know, probably may end up getting called in for trials for Galway and stuff like that. Might come a bit too soon for him, but this is what our development squads are for. Guys like that we can see maybe down the road can offer something going forward. But he's a huge handful for any team. But again, go back to things like Ahascragh. I would have put across them when I was managing Turnup. Is their adaptability is exceptional. And look, the two of the finest turners in Galway and the two Manions, but the rest of the guys are well capable and stuff like that. And I know that Franny Ford has been going over the odd, even giving them a hand out with training and stuff like that. So they want this. They're keen to go up to senior A, as are Mullagh. I think is Derek Hardiman and Eamon Donoghue, two stalwarts of the club that are managing them. So they've put a lot of pride and passion back into what they're doing and have been. I think Ings is right from the talk and chat to people. The two teams that deserve to be in the final on their results and their performances are there. And it is a hard one to call. Will the venue have something to do with it? I think Ings, you might agree with this. I think Ahascragh seemed very comfortable in Latray, so there's a Ballinasloe. So will that have a part to play in it? It'll be small things that'll shade it for either team.
Yeah, I mean, like both played three games there this year, 3 championship games. So like it's going to be a great day for both parishes, and the fact that I don't say this, but people out in East Galway do, not having to trek into the stadium would probably mean that a lot more locals, it's only a stone's throw from Ahascragh to Ballinasloe, and the same with Mullagh. So I think there'll be a huge crowd there. It's a great day for both parishes. It's a while. I think Mullagh were in the county final 20 years ago. I can't remember when Ahascragh were last in the county final, to be honest. So like this is a big deal for both parishes, and the players will feed off that. And that brings a bit of nervousness, that brings a bit of tetchiness in terms of the game itself. So I think it's going to be a great game. As I said, there will be nothing in this game. I'd be very surprised if somebody ends up winning this by 2 or 3 points. Being honest with you, I think a draw is very, 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 very likely.
Yeah, that's the thing is when the senior B was being proposed and being, a lot of people were against it, and could not just be senior A and B, but you forget this is a county final. This is massively important to both clubs, to go up to senior A, and both clubs have huge tradition, and will want to be. And you're right. And actually, I was in Ballinasloe during the week, and I passed out through Ahascragh and the Bunton and the Flags. I know they were in a minor final as well last week, but huge, like as if it was the senior A county final. This is now, I haven't been Mullagh direction, I'm sure it's the same, but that's these guys, that's what they've been training as hard as Latray, Sarsfields, Thomases, or Turnock, if not harder, I'm sure. So to have this big day in a pitch close to both that supporters can get to, and weather looking good, and who you wouldn't be surprised, Angus, if this was the game of the weekend, because they're so evenly matched,
Has senior B worked, Angus?
I think so, being honest. Like, you'd fear for a couple of the teams in Senior B going up against, the top 8 teams in Senior A, being honest with you, in terms of standard-wise, they'd probably be on the end of a few drubbings, really, being honest with you. So there hasn't been many teams where one has beaten the other by a significant margin. I know Mullagh turned us over a few times, but in reality, the scoring difference wasn't really reflective of the full gap in terms of standard. So, I think Senior B has worked very well. Being honest, teams are able to play at their own standard, and they're getting very good competition. And, everybody's taking it deadly serious, that's for sure.
Just with a couple of the matchups when it comes to Ahascragh and Mullagh this weekend, could we see, for instance, Joe, where Ronan Glennon picks up Cathal Mannion and Porrick Mannion picks up Davy Glennon this weekend?
Yeah, you could. You quite could. I think, obviously Mullagh are going to have to do something with Cathal Mannion, and you'd imagine that Ronan would be the guy to tag him. It'll be an interesting battle now. Like Cathal is a hard man to tie down. Can land points from wherever. But again, and going back to the Senior A semi-finals, then it becomes about everyone else. Your guys on the flanks, your other guys that maybe not the household names. They're the guys that will have to step up. And we spoke about that with Sarsfields in the semi-final against Thomas's. It's which team can get their guys that maybe aren't the inter-county guys or the household names. What team will have more of those guys to step up and take the game at the scruff of the neck, But there'd be two, like obviously Davy as well on Cott, like they're huge battles, guys that know each other inside out and would park it for the hour and a bit they're out on the pitch and go hell for another to get their club back to Senior A. But again, that's what will draw the crowds in and draw the people in to watch those battles. And that'll be the same on Sunday in the Senior A games. It's why we all want to see these games and see the matchups and who'll come out on top. And but I don't envy anyone having to pick up Carl.
Yeah, Paul. I mean, Mullagh haven't changed their setup no matter who they're playing all year. They've played the same positions the whole year. As I said, I've been to all of their games, and there's no way they'll move Ronan Glennon from where he is. He's playing so well at 6. Like every single club team has put somebody on Cathal Mannion, and he still minds 3, 4, 5 points a game, no matter who's marking. Even if they did put Ronan Glennon on him, he probably still would score the same. So, Kevin Briscoe was tagged with it when they played them earlier on. Did reasonably all right, in fairness. I wouldn't, for a man of his age, did reasonably well on Cathal. I think he kept him to maybe 4 points from play. Like against Leitrim, Cathal Mannion essentially dragged Ahascragh back into the game, got a fantastic goal, clipped over some long-range points. So I think it's pointless trying to tag him, as in moving your best player from his main position, centre-back, to try and pick up their main men, because he's going to cost damage anyway. No matter who's marking him.
Just on Ronan at 6, Aonghus, do you think it's something Galway can explore?
I wouldn't think so, really, being honest with you. He tends to go up the field a lot too much. Really, he wants to get a few scores, which is fair enough, and he has been doing it. But I think he'd be more effective in midfield for Galway, really, wing forward. That's not to say he couldn't do a job if they're stuck or whatever. But I think there's better options at 6, really, for Galway hurlers.
Aonghus mentioned there's nothing between the sides, but if you're to pick a winner in this weekend, who do you think's getting back up to senior?
I think I was massively impressed with how Ahascragh pulled themselves back into the semi-final, because in fairness, Leitrim Killadima were flying it up to that as well, and I think again for me it'll come down to Cathal Mannion and what he can do, and because of him, and obviously I know Mullagh have a fine team as well, but just solely on Cathal Mannion and what he can produce, whether it's a goal out of nothing or 5 points when you're under the thumb or under pressure, and again how they, to be honest, I didn't expect them to win that semi-final. I thought the way Leitrim were going and the quality of hurling they were playing from the game I seen of them against Beha. Now doesn't matter who you're playing, but the performance they put in was exceptional. I didn't expect Ahascragh to be able to win that, but to win it and drag themselves back from being behind, I think I would give them the nod, and again a tight game, and no doubt it'll go down to the wire, but I just think that they might have enough to come out with the likes of Cathal Mannion and Pádraig Mannion leading the charge.
Can we get you for a winner, Aonghus?
I don't know, Paul. I mean, they've played each other already. That game probably should have been a draw. I noticed the Ahascragh video man didn't stop videoing for the second game in Loughrea there, so they'll know each other inside out. Absolutely. So the whatever advantages teams might have, they're not going to change their setup in 2 weeks going into a final. Nobody's going to overhaul their system when it's been working for them. If you have to push me, I'd say Mullagh, and I mean by a squeak. purely because they have been finishing games very strong and are very well conditioned. But that could be after extra time.
Yeah, or who could, I don't know what the story, if it's a draw after extra time, is it replay or penalties? It could go all the way. It's set to be a cracker in that senior B final, Ahascragh and Mullagh on Saturday. Then just the intermediate semi-finals, you have Ceylon and Ballindereen at 2 in Loughrea, and then 3:30, Teen Aberdeen and Meath Aircourt in a local derby. Joe, you said from the outset you expect Ceylon to reach the intermediate county final.
Yeah, I do. I was like, I've seen them once, seen them against Turnock now. Ran to Turnock Road in the championship at that stage. But I was massively impressed with them. I'd seen them last year. I'd watched videos of them against Kinvara last year, but they've moved on from that. They were very physical that day against Kinvara, and but they've moved on now. They've added 2 or 3 new players, to their team. Keelan Craven was out injured for a lot of the group stages. He came back. He's back now, and a quality hurler. Like he'd be on so many senior teams, around Galway as well. No, I'm not taking away from Ballindereen. They had a fine performance against Tina to draw with Tina. Bet Spittle comprehensively. Bet Abernaquoy, were missing one of the parties on the day, but bet them, and obviously I didn't see the Raham game, but got over them as well in tough conditions. But there was something I liked about Ceylon. It was just how they've moved on, and got to the semi-final last year. Climber bet them. So I think this will be the next step for them, and I give them every chance of winning that. If they turn up and perform. Now Loughrea will be a new pitch to them. I don't know if they have played many games up in Loughrea. Ballindereen possibly would have down through the years, but it'll be a new haunt for Ceylon. But they're the type of group where nothing phases them or nothing seems to. A good manager in Ronan Higgins, who's there now for 3rd year into it, I think, and a good management team with him as well. So as of Ballindereen, Kevin Ward is there, and he knows his stuff as well. Been around the block. But because I think Ceylon have progressed nicely year on year, I give them a big shout here. And I'd quite possibly sneak over the line.
They have a big decision to make, Joe. Keelan Craven, as you mentioned there, he came on in the quarterfinal against Clarebridge. They have a big decision to make now, whether they start him or not this weekend.
Yeah, again, I would imagine no more than we run about Loughrea. I'd imagine that they'll hold him in reserve. Don't think the fitness levels would be up to where he'd like them to be, or maybe where the Ceylon management would want them to be. Probably not an hour in them, and maybe it's a game where there won't be a lot in this game. It's a game where maybe the last 20 minutes, his point scoring ability could be key. So to have him on the pitch maybe for the closing stages, I think could be key to them. And plus they've been winning games, quite well without him during the summer. In the group stages, they beat, Carmore, which was no mean feat, Turnockmore, Annadown, and then beat Raham Cambridge, 4-15 to 15 points. So, they've been quite comfortable, without him. So I think that's a big coup for them as well, to have him to be able to come in. But I'd imagine that'll be the role he play on Saturday from off the bench.
It's a huge opportunity for either of these clubs now, you feel, to reach an intermediate final.
Yeah, I mean, as Joe had said there, this is Ceylon's 2nd year now getting to this stage. They been scoring well all year, being honest, and 4-15 in their last game. Adrian Lardner's been playing very well. Owen Martin, Paul Ronan, like these guys have been around, and surely they have the bit between their teeth now after they got beaten last year in the semi-final. Ballindereen argue they scraped through their group. It's unusual for a 3rd place team to come out of the group. They're probably a bit young. Kevin is probably doing a great job with them, etc. But I feel, Ceylon should at this stage now decide the time is now to make the leap and get up to a county final, really, being honest with you. The other game then, this is going to be a cracker of a game, being honest with you. It's a local derby. Meath have been going very, very well all year. They both have the same scoring averages, and they both have conceded the most, or at least exactly the same amount. So, I mean, this is going to be a humdinger, really, being honest. I think this is going to be a very tight, tense tactical battle. Matty's not going to let this be an open, free-flowing game. I think they'll play to their strengths, obviously, Tina, but they'll have to shut down Meath. They scored 128 in the last game. It's good enough scoring. And, Tina started off a bomb, and maybe their graph dipped a small bit. The draw against Ballinderreen had enough just over Carmore or whatever, but when the time comes around, Matty will have these guys right, and I feel again this is going to be a very, very close game and a hard one to call.
Yeah, and it's interesting the sidelines as well. Obviously, you have Matty Kinney with Tina, and you have
Noel Larkin
on the other side with so that'll be interesting as well. Former Galway coaches as well, but go back to it, they are two well drilled teams. Two very well conditioned teams. They've been on the road a while. Like obviously, Tina have come down, but definitely with Matty and Kevin Devine and Liam Hodgson and those involved, their aim is to go right back up. But they'll earn it against Airport now. They really will. As I said again, can I? How good are they? It's so hard to judge them off the back of the Kinvara game because Kinvara just didn't perform. But the thing is, to shoot 128, that's good scoring. They do seem to be coming into form the right time. Play a nice brand of hurling. John Fleming playing very well at six for them in probably as good a shape as I've seen him in. Some good movement up front to the Gohries and stuff like that. Nathan Erner came off the bench coming back from injury for them. Really, really good hurlers. So this could be physicality wise. Tina might be slightly at the likes of Paul Killeen, Pádraig Breheny, those guys, Shane Maloney, those guys have been around a while and well able to get around the pitch and to hurl. For me, it might be those guys that could get Tina over the line, but you could talk to me in an hour's time and I'd be saying Aircourt will do the exact same thing. Like, it's just from playing both of them, this game could go either way. And again, it could be a really, really quality game of hurling.
This is the thing, Angus. Tina have been favourites to go straight back up since the outset. Meath produced a really impressive performance. Last year's finalists, just missing out obviously on winning that intermediate title narrowly to Climber. Like, it's their mission to get back to where they were last year and go one step further. So it just sets it up so nicely this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, no disrespect to Ceylon and Ballinderreen, they're very well prepared teams, but the management setup that's involved with Tina and Meath now will leave no stone unturned in getting these guys right. Tina have tried to stay under the radar. They've been training extensively since before Christmas to get in shape, to get back up. They kept it very low profile. And Meath as well have a very, very professional setup, no doubt, with intercounty experience. So I'm giving the nod to Tina, but it's again by a whisker, really, being honest with you, purely because of you'd hope that some of their lads have experience of hurling at a higher level, and when they come back down, they haven't lost it that much and are able to keep their standards high at a senior level to come back up. But as Joe said, wouldn't be one bit surprised if Meath come out either.
Yeah, it's a local derby, of course, as well, Tina and Meath this weekend, so it makes it all the more intriguing. But that's all we do have time for on our show today. A massive weekend of action, and as well we have the junior final taking place between Skahana, Montbellew and Loughrea. That's going to be before the Senior B final, so another huge game to look forward to. That's all we have time for. Thanks to the lads for coming on today.